Hey guys, my name is Heather Lindsey.
And my name is Cornelius Lindsey.
And I'm so excited that you landed on Life with the Lindseys.
This is so exciting. This gives us an opportunity to share our life with yours.
Yes, we're going to be talking about everything from entrepreneurship to ministry to your purpose to why you are here, family, parenting, relationships, marriage, sex, you name it. We are talking about it.
So thank you so much for joining us today with Life with the Lindseys. Enjoy it.
What's up, Life with the Lindseys? We're creating our grocery list.
Juice. So they're using apple juice.
What do you say, baby?
Get the pineapple juice. It's not made from concentrate. Or they can get some pineapples. We can make some pineapple juice. It might be cheaper.
We're back recording.
Two pineapples. And if they got musket grapes, get those. And some water. No, don't get the watermelon from Sprouts. Watermelon is trash.
It is. I don't know what's up with that.
They don't get it from the same place.
So we're back recording. Welcome to our temporary kitchen.
Praise the Lord.
It's gorgeous though. We'll take it.
We're thankful.
We're so thankful. God is good, man. He's so good. So today we're going to talk about empathy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I was listening to Renee Brown this morning, Dr. Renee Brown. If y'all don't know about Dr. Renee Brown, you should probably look her up. So she went viral. She did a TED Talk. And she went viral on that TED Talk. And it was, it from there, she kind of got, put into a lot of different, she got invited out to a lot of different Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies. And since then, I think she has like over 4 million followers on Instagram. Yeah, she's pretty out there. But she classifies herself as a researcher. But it was interesting because I'm rereading one of her books now. And one of the things she was talking about was, as a society, we lack empathy because we lack vulnerability. And that lack of empathy makes it very difficult for us to begin to have real authentic relationship with one another because we lack vulnerability. And I see it. You see it a lot. I mean, a lot of people are right now, we're arguing, we're fighting, we're going against each other. I think a lot of that has to do because we lack vulnerability, which then in turn means that we lack empathy. And the last thing I'll say to that is I think the way that the people keep us, or the way that the media and everything else would keep us, bound, is because I feel like they use shame. Shame is everywhere. Like right now shame is the weapon of choice around the talk of the vaccine. Shame is the weapon of choice that is around, whether or not, and I know in the state of Georgia, whether or not you want to agree with the new voter law or not. Yeah. It's like in many ways, and this is not just one side, but both sides of the aisle, they use shame as a means to try to pigeonhole you into one place to pick up a belief. And what I mean by that is shame, what they do is they'll say, well, you are not a good person if you do not do blue. And like one of the things that I just recorded a whole podcast on this one, to be honest, and it's more political slant this week. I encourage y'all to listen to it. But one of the things we talked about with shame was right now, have you heard anybody use the phrase, you need to get the vaccine because that is your patriotic duty? Yeah. And then in the church, they've gotten preachers to start saying, you need to get the vaccine because that is the way that you love your neighbor. Yeah. So the implication on the other side of that is if you don't get the vaccine, then you're not doing your patriotic duty. Yeah. That makes you unpatriotic. You're not a good person. And then on the other side, when it comes to religion, if you don't get the vaccine, then you're not loving your neighbor. And that means that you are not a good person. Yeah. So that puts you outside of this box. And I think people right now, they're not waking up to the fact that shame is being used. It's really bad.
It is. That's sad. I mean, I feel like we would do well to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. What about the person that literally cannot get the vaccine due to allergies, or not allergies, due to maybe they're allergic to one of the ingredients, or their body's going to have a bad reaction, or they're very sensitive. And
we're not even talking about that now.
Right. No, I'm not.
No,
I'm just saying.
I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying that's not even involved in a national conversation.
Oh, of course.
Like, well, what's in it first before I get it? What's in it, so I can make sure that my body won't have an adverse reaction to it. But unfortunately, everybody's kind of lab rats at this point, because we don't know what kind of reaction you're going to have.
Yeah.
And if somebody does have a reaction to it, and somebody, there's an untimely death, then of course, as always, it won't be because of a vaccine. It's going to be because of some God knows other reason that they'll say happened to kill the person. But it'll say in this.
I saw that on Twitter. Somebody recently died. I'm not sure if you saw it.
The black woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. She was. I think it was March 1st. She got it, and then
March 15th was the second dose.
The second dose.
She just died. She got very sick after that.
They were saying, I think they went and they like scrubbed that part from the Twitter that said that she got it. Because they won't, here's the thing. They won't classify it. The coroner's office won't classify it as whatever's in the vaccine. They'll say, well, something else happened.
She's
maybe
young,
maybe she had a stroke, or maybe she had this,
lawyer.
or, so but it still goes back. This podcast is not about vaccines. I mean, hell, you do whatever you want to do. I feel like God gives us free will. And then, for us, we live in America, which also gives us the freedom of choice. We have the freedom of choice, and nobody should feel shame whether or not they don't want to abide by whatever rules that govern somebody else. Like, hell, you want to go get it, you go get it. If you don't want to get it, then don't go get it. I get people they start arguing there in public places, and I'm like, you're in a public place and you're arguing with somebody else about a mask. Like, back up, just back up away from them. But now, they say you don't have to be 6 feet, you have to be 3 feet, because I guess COVID, it got skinnier when the summer came. I don't know. But I mean, it's TIE is what a TIE is.
I think in general, we can take that, and then we can also take the fact that we've been on lockdown, or most of America's starting to open up again, but for an entire year, and mental health is becoming a really big issue right now in a lot of people's lives, because maybe maybe COVID brought some things out of them they didn't realize that they struggled with, right? They've been sitting at the house. Maybe they are single. They haven't been able to hang out with their friends, or whatever the case is. And I just feel like if we could take a moment to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and empathize and say, you know what? You might be different than me. You might look different you might have different views, but I don't have to hate you because of your views. I don't have to hate you because of the way you think. Like, God didn't create us to just hate each other, right?
I agree.
We know where that comes from. That comes from the enemy. And so as believers, I get to love my neighbor. Do I always agree with my neighbor? No. Do you 100% agree with anybody? No. Do you 100% agree with your pastor? No. There's going to be one thing you're going to disagree about with whoever is in your life, or whether it's your mother, your father, a family member. You're always going to disagree on something, and that's okay. God made us different. He gave us free will choice. But I feel like we can become so hateful against people and things that we don't agree with. There's things that I don't agree with, but I'm not going to go hate the person and be like, I hate you. No, I'm not going to do that. That's a real person with feelings and trauma and issues that they've gone through. And it's like, I feel like we would do good to sit down with people and get to know who they are and stop labeling them and hating them.
Yeah. Like, our society today is hell bent on, we've exchanged the idea of simply disagreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
That nowadays people assume I have to hate you if I disagree with you, which is crazy. So far from the truth. Like, I have friends who are Republican. I have friends who are Democrat. I mean, for me, I consider myself to be a libertarian, and but I have friends who are libertarian. I have friends who fall on every aisle of the political spectrum. I have some friends who are, they are for the vaccine. They are going to get it. They are championing it. They are running around for it. They keep their mask on in their house. So be it.
In the car. I wonder.
I have some friends who they wear their mask in the car when they're by themselves, because I guess they're gonna get themselves infected. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but I mean, and then I have some friends who are like, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to do this. And they're the kind of friends who will get on an airplane and will not put on a mask. That's just
and
how
get
they
them
are.
tails kicked
and
right off
get
the
kicked
plane.
off the plane, and they'll just go to another airline until all the airlines ban them. That's just who they are. Right. And and here's the thing, I love them all.
Yeah.
Do I agree with everything they agree with? No. I have some friends, they support Trump. I have some friends who don't support Trump. I have some friends who support Joe Biden. I have some friends who don't, who can't stand to even listen to Joe Biden. And I think that if we learn the value of disagreeing to disagree, like I don't agree, but even nowadays, even with religion, you can't even disagree with something in the church nowadays without somebody coming out and labeling other people as false prophet. I don't even think that people even know what that means.
I think they just say false prophet. They don't know.
Yeah, our vocabulary is so limited that we don't know how we have not yet matured to the ability to be able to expand our vocabulary besides the elementary words that we have learned.
You're like, I don't like you. You're a false prophet.
We can't even define.
Like, where do you get that from?
I'm going to tell you exactly where it comes from. I'll tell you this right after this.
All right, babe. Have you heard about this company? I know I've mentioned it before.
I saw you wearing their shoes.
Yeah, Rothy's. Okay,
yeah,
so
really
I love these stylish, sustainable shoes, and they actually have bags too, and they're eco-friendly with materials like repurposed plastic water bottles and marine plastic. Now, if plastic water bottles make those fabulous, comfortable shoes, they are literally the most comfortable flat shoes that I have. I'm able to wear them on our date day, and we're able to wear them out, and they don't hurt. And I also love this. Rothy's best-selling shoe, the Point in Black, which is the one I have, has over 5,000 near perfect views, and I can see why, because it is so, so comfortable.
Here's the thing, y'all. Check out all the amazing shoes, bags, masks, because everybody needs those now.
I need to get a mask.
Available right now at rothys.com/LWL. That's rothys.com. Rothys is ROTHYS.com/LWL. Style and sustainability meet to create your new favorites. Head to rothys.com/LWL today.
And we're back.
So the idea of, so somebody considers themselves a false prophet. A false prophet is typically someone who would completely deny the deity of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's somebody who would completely deny the deity of Jesus Christ. That Jesus Christ is not who he says he is. Then as a man of Christian faith, I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. As a man of Christ, then disciple of Jesus Christ, that is considered a false prophet. That person, and then so if you listen to a preacher and the preacher says, you all can go out and don't get a vaccine tomorrow. That doesn't go around. You don't say, oh, that's a false prophet just because he disagrees with something that you may agree with.
Yeah.
Doesn't make him a false prophet. It's like,
isn't that crazy?
Don't be an idiot.
It's true. You're right. It's like they just say, oh, I don't like what they said, or this is what they do. They'll hear a clip of a pastor or a person speaking on something that's been chopped up and added together. They did that. They've done that to us many times, where they take even our podcast and they cut and paste and they make it sound like we are crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, then they try to twist it and make it out to be that we're somebody that we're not. So,
and they do it to a lot of it. They did it to Trump. I mean, they do it. I mean, to be fair, they did it to Joe Biden. They do it to Kamala. If you're a leader,
they're going to do it. If you're a leader in any capacity, I believe that's the cost that comes with being a believer and being a leader, right? So if you are listening and you're like, I just feel like people, I'm leading, or maybe you are leading in a ministry, or you're leading in a business, or maybe you're in a high level at your job and you're just finding people trying to throw you under the bus or discredit you. That's part of the journey. And I've learned that it's hard to put myself in somebody else's shoes that I've never walked in.
Yeah.
And now as a leader and a person, like, I'm not going to speak on another leader. I'm not going to put my mouth on them. I might not agree with them, but I'm not going to put my mouth on them, because I know how hard it is to lead and how hard it is to be the first generation or the first person to do it out of your crew. It's hard.
Yeah. Theodore Roosevelt said something I think was pretty cool. He said, and I want you to pay very close attention when I say this, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat.
That's good, baby.
And I was reading that because it ties in with what you were just saying. It is easy to be a critic.
Oh, it's so easy.
It's so easy to be a critic, but the critic is not the one who counts. Like, it's so easy to sit in the football stands
and the nosebleed seats.
And look down on the field and say, he should have caught that ball. But then you're like 100 pounds overweight. You know what I mean?
Well,
like you couldn't run down a field. You probably wouldn't run down a field unless Krispy Kreme was giving you a free donut. You know what I'm talking about? But it's so easy for you to criticize something that you assume, but because what you didn't realize was the guy on the field, he may have had sweat in his eye.
Yeah.
Or maybe the sun was blocking his view. Or maybe when the ball was coming,
up all night.
Yeah, I mean, something could have been happening for that football player to ultimately miss the catch. But you couldn't see it because you weren't in his shoes. And the critic oftentimes is the one who receives the audience. When they don't realize that it's the player who is the one who gets the chance to play, but it's the player who knows what it means to dare greatly, because I am the one who actually stepped on the field. You know what that reminds me of, baby?
Chadwick Boseman, when he played in Black Panther. And he was sick. Like he had cancer. He had been diagnosed, and he still continued to. He was in all these other movies. I want to say maybe 3 movies after that. And he got really frail and really skinny, and people were dragging him online. And he didn't say anything. His people didn't say anything. Nobody did. It's like, you don't know the true full story of what that person's walking through. So this is why we've got to be gentle with people. We have to be loving towards people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what that marriage is going through. You might be looking at that marriage and you might even be jealous of it, but you don't know the fight that they're going through to make their marriage work and to stand and to forgive and to love. Or maybe their child, was diagnosed with special needs, and you don't know what that family's going through. And it's so easy for us to just nitpick and grade and tell people you're this or you're that, but you don't know what that person's going through. Yeah. You don't know what their personal battle is. You don't know their fight. And I feel like it's just not fair that people do that. And we've lost our empathy. And it wasn't always like this with social media. When social media first started popping, back in the day with Facebook and stuff, it was like, you just shared, I went to the grocery store.
You didn't share that. People were just sharing food. It was like, look what I ate. I ate Eggos this morning.
Right.
It was like,
or family. It wasn't like what it is now, where it's like this microphone, where people have this microphone to tear down other people. And it's destructive and it's hurtful. Yeah. And you hear about stories of people that got bullied online and then they committed suicide. Like that's real, y'all.
It's happening every single day.
And then guess what? Those very people were charged with the murder of the person that committed suicide because
as they should be.
You aided in it by bullying them. So you have to ask yourself, like, every day, is even before you post, like, is what I'm posting encouraging or is it destructive? Am I tearing down or am I building up? Do I have a bunch of fake pages that I use to tear down my friends, right? My friends that love me, but you creating fake pages to tear down their life because you're jealous of them. Instead, deal with that foundation. You have a crack in your foundation, and it's good to take a moment and step back and say, I got some cracks and I need some help. And whether that's therapy or whether that's, joining a small group, whatever your truth is to find your avenue for healing, it's important that you recognize that it needs to be done.
Yeah. I think Easter was a lot different for me this year. Yeah. Well, Easter for me Easter was a lot different for me this year.
I bet it was 8 years where you're not at a church.
Yeah. And as a pastor, Easter was always difficult.
Yeah.
Easter was probably my worst holiday as a pastor.
I did not know that, babe.
Easter was always my worst holiday because there's so much expectation that comes with Easter because, and in the pastoral world amongst pastors, we always say that Easter is our Super Bowl. That's that's where we're going to get the most people come to church. That's where you have to make your best impression. Your whole team needs to be on point because you're getting all these newcomers.
So much pressure.
And people are bringing their family and they're bringing their cousins and their friends and, they're bringing these people and you want them to hopefully stay and you want them to have the best experience. You want them to have this, and you want them to have that and all these great things and you want it to be great. Like Christmas is not even like that. You would think Christmas, but Easter
You're right. Easter Sunday is a big deal.
It goes Easter, then it goes New Year's Eve. Then they say that the worst Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody's getting ready for stuff. But Easter this year was quite different for me because, resigning from pastoring, but I'll talk about that more right after this.
Babe, a woman's journey from pregnancy to postpartum might be challenging and it's so tough to prepare for. And I know this for a fact because we have had 3 babies and then also postpartum comes, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's one of the most nutritionally demanding times, especially because I'm nursing. So it's hard. It's so important that I'm still prioritizing myself, and ladies, that you're prioritizing yourself. And this is why we love Ritual. Yeah. It's Ritual's newest member, Essential Postnatal, for the arrival of a mother's nutrient needs postpartum.
So the guys who are listening, I mean, this is so important for your wife. I remember the first time watching my wife go through pregnancy, not really knowing, hey, what do I do? What do I provide? And this could be one of those things where you're saying, this is what you want to provide. And you want to make sure that your wife and your new addition to your family is receiving all the nutrients they need. That the postpartum is something that's so important. So Essential Postnatal is so good. A mother doesn't always put her needs first, but Ritual does. That's why we're offering all of our listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/LWL to start Essential Postnatal today. And while you're on there, don't just do Essential Postnatal. Also do Essential for kids, and also men. Also do Essential men. I take Essential every single day.
Every 30 days you get it in the mail.
It's amazing. My kids take that. We love it. Go with
family
Ritual.
Affair.
So, on the Easter Sunday, I spent a lot of time kind of scrolling through and seeing, a lot of my pastor friends. I call them my pastor homies. And I follow some of their churches. And it was very interesting because from this side of the desk, it allowed for me to see what I was doing too.
Yeah.
And when you look out, I just wanted to look out with a fresh set of eyes to kind of get an idea. And it made me ask the question, as pastors, are we walking in each other's shoes?
Wow. Yeah.
Because it's like, if you notice, it's all about it was extremely competitive. You can tell, you can almost feel the competition that's kind of birthed from it, that I'm going to have the better Easter experience. That if you can't join me live, then join me virtually, or this is our first time coming back live, and we're gonna have a great experience. And it was almost like a pissing contest. And then the rule they were using was, the musical artist that I could afford to get. So you would notice some of the churches who were saying, I got this musical artist coming, I have this musical artist coming, I have this one coming, and I have this special thing, and I got an Easter bunny gonna be there, and I have this one, and we're gonna do an Easter egg hunt instead of doing 10,000 eggs. We're gonna have 1 million eggs this year.
Yeah, they're dropped from the helicopter.
Bigger than any church. Like no other church in the city is doing this. And it's almost like, man,
yikes. Yeah.
Is this still kingdom?
Yeah.
Is this still like kingdom? Like we're all doing this together? Or has ego gotten into this? And I just wondered, as pastors, our pastoral leaders, spiritual leaders, have we kind of lost focus of kind of walking each other's shoes? Because Easter, so after all of the hoopla and after all different experiences and stuff, I just went down the road and I just started texting a lot of my pastor homies. And it was interesting because a lot of them were just like, I feel so empty.
Wow.
I was like, so I didn't ask her how was church. I said, how are you? And probably 90% of them, when I asked, how are you? They're like, oh man, church was amazing. And we had this number of people show up, and, you know, we had only been getting about 100 people, but we had 600 people show up, and blah, 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 and we're almost getting back to our numbers and blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, well, that's great. But how are you? And
I love when people ask me that. I
was like, how are you?
They really care.
And it was interesting because in all of that, they were so broken. Like, I am exhausted. I'm tired. I'm like, what did you get out of it? I don't know yet, you know? And I thought, man, have we kind of gotten away from kingdom and kind of gotten into ego a bit? And it was one pastor, he said this to me, and I'm bringing this all full circle. He says to me, he said, Cornelius, he said, I wonder, he said, you know, now, because I started sharing what I shared with y'all. I started sharing it with him. And he said, that makes me really hurt because I wonder about the guy with the smaller church. Who probably looked at some of our pictures and thought, I didn't do enough because I didn't have as many I didn't have that many people that came. I didn't have many people who watched me. And I was happy in that moment because he had empathy. You know, he was kind of feeling, kind of want to walk in the shoes of those other guys. But I just wonder, have we even lost empathy in that type of scenario when it comes to ministry, lost sight of kingdom versus ego? And so I'm really concerned about our society.
I think that's like a big measuring stick, and it's just not with churches, but like conferences, events, how many people you got, how many numbers you got going, right? And I feel like it's this thing in the back of our head that says, if we have this amount, then that means that we're enough. If we have this amount, that means that we're good enough and that we're qualified. And look at me, I'm doing the church thing. It's successful. I'm enough. Like, is your identity so wrapped up in your title or in who comes to the Lord that what happens if there's a day where nobody comes to the Lord on your church service? Nobody walks down to the altar. Does that mean that you're not qualified? Does that mean that you're not called? I feel like there's some foundation cracks there. If we can be honest, right?
I agree.
And say, am I really doing this? Like, am I getting back to the heart of worship? Am I getting back to that place where I'm like, God, I want you to use me if that means only 4 people show up. I want you to use me even if that means only 6 people show, regardless of who comes. You care so much about the one, and I do too, Lord. Just having that mindset where it's like, God, you called me, and because you called me, it's about you. It's not about the numbers. It's not about who shows up and who doesn't. I'm doing this because I'm being obedient to you and I love you. And that's it.
We have been deceived in our society into thinking that if it is not big, then it is not relevant.
Come on, babe.
And
it's so real though.
And it's so
like, who told us this lie? Like, if you, even for our YouTubers, right? God may have told you to start a YouTube channel. God may have told you to start a YouTube channel, but you don't have a lot of views, so you stopped. But it's like, we all got to start somewhere, right, babe?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, but do you do it for the views? And that's the thing that we got to get to.
Word.
Do you do it for the views? Do you do it for the, and I got into a heated conversation with a pastor about this, because I said to him, I said, you know, one of the things that I went before the Lord with, and I was kind of asking him, is like, man, was I doing it for the output or for the sole outcome? Because the output, when you go to these church conferences, like, you know, as a pastor, you remember, you're sitting there next to me. The thing is about numbers. Let's measure. And then we get in the Bible and they say, well, this is God used numbers. He gave Noah numbers and he gave this person numbers. And, you know, if numbers weren't important, then they wouldn't have said in Acts that you know, Jesus added this number, or that the Lord added this number to their numbers. And so we use that. We use scripture to try to push this narrative of the importance of statistics.
Yeah.
And so now you get bogged down into numbers and you get bogged down into outcome. So now I can see how effective a church service was.
Yeah.
Because this number of people came to the church service. This number of people chose to tithe at the church service. This number of people got, quote unquote, saved at the church service. But I can't necessarily judge the person's heart to see if they really made a decision or whether or not they just said a prayer and repeated a prayer after me, which in my opinion does not equal salvation, but that's a whole nother podcast. you can go through all of those different things and it becomes about output.
Yeah.
But where is the real soul outcome? Did that person's life really change? And then we get in, you know, and I know it. You know, I get it. I was a pastor too. I get it. Where you look at it and you look at your numbers on Facebook, and you can see how many people joined you on Facebook. And then nowadays you look at stats and you can see how many people joined from different countries.
Yeah.
So if one person from India joined, then we'll say, oh, we had 432 countries represented. One of them, we had India was represented today in our service. What if that person in India like accidentally clicked onto your feed and was like, dang, I'm lost, and then hurry up and clicked off, but that it was recorded so now, I mean, were we really effectively reaching India?
Yeah.
Come on, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know how we got, but I do, because I took us there. But nevertheless, going back to the original point, which if you've been listening to this podcast anytime, you already know we usually get away from the original point, going back to that point of empathy.
Of just putting ourselves in other people's shoes, even putting yourself in your pastor's shoes. You have no idea how stressed they probably were on Easter. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I'm sure there's people that emailed in, I did not like the worship leader. I did not like the music. I didn't like that y'all had an Easter bunny. Easters are pagan. I don't like that you have this. It's like, when do you reach out when you do like what's going on?
Oh.
Do you reach out when the power of God is just so tangible in that place? Or do you only reach out when you have an issue or you have a problem? I feel like we have to even put ourselves, can I put myself in my pastor's shoes? Let me put myself in the worship leader's shoes, because the worship leaders and the pastors are getting attacked harder than anybody else. We just come in and you sit down and make yourself comfortable, but you don't understand the tests and trials that worship leader and that pastor had to go through to prepare to come and minister to you, to set the atmosphere so that you can have your soul fed for a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
so they can sit there and critique a service that they had it's like.
But hold on. But even the worship, I don't like the worship. We sang that song too many times. It wasn't for you. It was for God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We sang that song.
Well, fool, it wasn't for you. Leave. Let's go. Bye. That's why I'm so glad I don't do this no more. I can be free enough to say whatever I want. Before I couldn't say that. Before I was like, oh, you didn't like the worship? Oh no. Well, you know what? We greatly apologize.
Child, no, I didn't. Even then, I was like, it wasn't for you, baby.
Because back then it was like, you know, I was trying to fit into this box.
Yeah.
Then when I broke out of that box, I was like, oh no,
I'm so glad you're out of that box
again. No, the hell with that. Nah, you don't like the song? Sorry, tell your mama we sung it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't singing it for you anyway. You didn't like it. You could have set your butt down. This is a free country. I didn't tell you to come to church anyway.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody send me a DM and they said, I'll say it right after this.
All right, Best Fiends. This is the number one game that I've watched my husband play on his phone.
You better believe it.
Consistently plays it every single day. Tell me how this game has caught your attention over
like level 1,000. That's without exaggeration. Because I'll tell you why. Because it is a mind puzzling game, and it keeps me, since my mind is always going anyway.
Yeah,
I like games that keeps me going. So if I'm not playing this one, you know, I play crosswords, but this one is amazing because I love the unique characters. I love the unique levels. I love all the codes you get. I even love it. There's one specific thing on there where you can get the keys. You can kind of unlock everything. And I just like to store up all of my keys and go.
You show me. You be like, babe, look at all these keys.
Look at it. But you know, the game is amazing. It doesn't require internet, so I can use it on the plane while I'm flying. It's absolutely amazing.
And when we lost our power, I remember we
lost our power at our house because we were in a storm, and I was playing Best Fiends. And my wife was like, "Are you playing Best?" Yes, I am, because I don't need it. So here we go. Hey y'all, download Best Fiends free today on the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's Friends without the R. Best Fiends. I had somebody send me a DM. It was interesting because the person was like, you know, you've changed and I've lost respect for you. And yeah, I looked at it for a little while and I thought to myself, you know, am I going to respond to this? And I chose to respond to them. I don't read DMs. I don't go through them. And I just so happened to see that one because I'm hosting a pastor's retreat, and I had some other pastors who I didn't know who responded to a post I put up about a retreat I'm putting on. So I just so happened to see this one. And so I chose to respond. And, you know, I think you would have been proud of me. It was without any expletives.
I'm proud, babe.
Thank
That's
you.
good.
Thank you.
Very proud of you.
I bow, I curtsy. But one thing I made clear for this woman to understand was that she aired the moment she thought that I cared anything about her respect.
Well, dang, baby.
You aired immediately when you thought I cared anything about her. And I told her, I said, you messed up the moment you thought that your respect meant anything to me. I never asked you to follow me. I never asked you to do anything. You did all of that because you desired to. I didn't ask you to do that. But again, it goes back to, and then what she was upset about was something that she has no clue about. You know what I mean? And, people say, well, you changed. Well, maybe I didn't change. Maybe I'm just allowing for you to see a layer of me that I didn't let you see before.
Because you were a pastor.
Because I felt like I had to be. I mean, and I feel like that's completely normal. Like you have a work you.
Come on.
Everybody got a work you that you put on your work voice and you act like your work
Megan,
pastor.
I'm so excited to be at work today.
Exactly.
You would get with your girls like, hey, girl.
Exactly. Everybody has like a work you, then you got a church you.
Right. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Blessed and highly favored. How you doing, sister?
God bless you. Oh, I bet you have a blessed week in Jesus' name. Praise the Lord. And then you have the voice you have with your kids.
Yeah.
Little Johnny, come on over here.
You can tell you white, little Johnny. You can tell you white.
Really?
Oh yeah,
okay.
we don't
know
Lil Johnny. We're gonna be like, cause here's the thing, black people, we not gonna say Lil Johnny because that's too long. We ain't gonna say Johnny because that's too long. We're gonna say Jay. He gonna be Jay, and we believe Jay, get over here.
Bring your tail over here.
How many times have I told you? You know what? Say something else. Say something. That's it. But
I couldn't say that to our sweet babies. I feel like their little hearts would be sad.
I know. Trust me. I know. But nonetheless, it goes back to that. Like I think what you were saying. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, the respect piece.
Yeah.
I was just like, girl, I don't care about you. You respect them.
Yeah.
I don't care nothing about. I don't care. Look, I have never met you before in my life, and here's the thing: if I never ever meet you in my life wouldn't change.
Baby,
I never even knew you was existed till you said that. And here's the thing: after you said it, nothing in my life changed.
The lighting changed in this room. This room is like all windows.
Oh yeah.
So we look a little darker on the camera.
It's a beautiful place.
It's beautiful. It's funny because the reality is that everybody's going to have
the lighting change on the camera.
Yeah, on the camera.
Oh, because the sun shifted.
Yeah, the sun shifted. So if it gets a little dark, YouTube, that's why. But no, it's real. The thing is this. I think we watch people's lives, and my prayer for her is that she would put herself in your shoes. If we just look at your life, just from the outside looking in, from the very little that you show people, you pastored for 8 years and then you stopped. Anybody who is at a job for 8 years or doing something consistently for 8 years where you're on nonstop, pouring into other people, helping them, then all of a sudden, you're going to go through hard times. You're going to have an adjustment period. There's going to be a transition period. So if anything, my prayer for her is that she would stop and say, how can I pray for my brother? I want you to know that, thank you for what you gave for 8 years where you poured into people's souls. You prayed over them. You covered them. You helped them. I can't imagine the new transition that you're going through. And the thing is, if she's a mother.
You know what? I should have sent the message to you. That was really good. I'm serious. That was really good. I'm sitting here listening like, I should have said that. But I'm glad I said what I said because I wanted to say exactly how I wanted to say it. And I hope she read it exactly how I said it. But keep going.
It's fine.
I thought that was really good. That was a very mature, Christian way of saying it. At the time that I said it, didn't give two fiddlesticks.
But sometimes we have those moments though where you don't care. Sometimes, and she doesn't understand how many messages you got that day. She doesn't know what you faced that day, and then she sent that message out of her flesh. And then you're having a rough day or you have a lot going on or you're feeling pulled on in 20 different directions and you're trying to do your best and you got people DMing you saying crazy stuff. That's hard, right? So if we could do better with putting ourselves in people's shoes and saying, okay, I may not have been a pastor for 8 years, but maybe maybe you had a job for 8 years, or maybe, you're becoming a new mother and it's a hard transition going from no children to having children. There's always a hard, difficult transition period that anybody goes through. And I feel like anybody could have struggle with that. Right. And I think being public figures, we're constantly putting ourselves on camera. We're constantly showing up. So people are critiquing every little thing, every little word we say, every little thing that we do, like grace leaders in general, not just us.
That don't happen nowadays.
Right.
Even allegations. I was watching ESPN today, and there was some football player, I don't know sports, but some guy on there, and it was like, he has allegations out against him and all this other kind of stuff. And one of the guys, one of the older guys who's in the gym, I love him. He just speaks his mind, he doesn't care. And he said, Cornelius, he didn't do it. I don't believe he did it. And then, this other guy, he was like, well, there are 22 women who saying he did. He said, I don't care if it was 100 of them. I don't believe he did it.
Yeah.
He said, we live in America. We live in a country where you are innocent until proven guilty. He said he ain't been criminally charged. He said all of this is about money. He said, nowadays makes you not even want to go to a massage parlor to get your body looked at and get it rubbed on, because you're going to have some woman who's going to be sitting there talking about some, that you did something to her. And then, he went on and on. I won't say what all things he said, but it was very interesting, because even in that moment, the world looks on. And there were critics and commentators who were talking about the allegations that were against this man. And not at one time did anybody look back and say, can I put myself in this man's shoes for just a minute? Oh, like, can I put myself, because this man is human. Like this whole, even the whole thing that happened with the married couple who, found out he was cheating, all that kind of stuff. I was listening to people as they just kind of degraded the man. And I thought to myself, have y'all no shame for yourself? Like, have you no?
He admitted it though.
But here's my thing. Whether or not he admitted it or not, to continue to just belittle the man, do you not realize that he is also human?
That's what I was saying. He actually he came out and admitted it. Shouldn't we be graceful? Like, you actually admitted you didn't have to do that.
I had somebody from the church who said this. They said, and this guy's a pastor. He said this to me. He said, "But Cornelius he is warranted all of his criticism." That's why he said it. He's warranted all of his criticism because of how mean he was and the language he used in times past when he was teaching. And I said, okay. I thank God that God did not use a piece of my past in order to punish my present.
Yeah.
If there was ever a time that the church of Jesus Christ wraps their arms around somebody, it's in a time when that person is at their weakest, whether you think they're there or not. Because somebody, well, he's still prideful. How the hell can you judge that man's heart? Well, I hear his words. Who cares what you hear? This is our opportunity to wrap our arms around somebody and to show unconditional love. This is where we falter. But we have churches that are still getting high numbers, because I'm going back to the point that I made on a post that I made on Easter, I think it was. The experience entertains, but it doesn't change. And that's why we still have a predominant Big C church that is still the same, because it has not changed. Because somehow we think that spiritual maturity is how much scripture you know.
Yeah. Not
how much scripture you live. If the true height of spiritual maturity was me just knowing a verse and being able to call out somebody else who doesn't, then that's not, that we don't serve the same God. Because the spiritual maturity I know says that we love. It's unfailing. We have agape love. Well, we have agape forgiveness, patience, joy, peace. The
long suffering. It's real.
The one that I know says that love forgets wrong. It forgets the wrongs of the past. It suffers long. That's what I know. That's spiritual maturity I know. But like they said, who is me to judge? So y'all, we love y'all.
We should continue this conversation. I love this, babe. It's been so good over at Patreon. What you think?
Hey, let's do it. Let's
Patreon.com/Life with the Lindseys. Come on over and support. If this podcast has just encouraged you, then we would love to have you on.
Thank y'all.
Love you guys.